Hello friends. So today we are going to see how to install Claude Code using OpenRouter, but there is a twist. We are not going to install it on native host OS, which means not on the operating system which I'm using, which is in my case Windows. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a desktop environment using Docker so that I will have a Ubuntu desktop environment which is running inside a Docker, and I'm going to install everything within that particular, let me call it sandbox. And the reason is that many times it happens that I have different configuration for Claude Code which is installed on my host OS. I want to avoid it. I want to have a completely isolated environment and try to test few things. So for example, what I have done is I have already installed Claude Code with OpenRouter here. And if I open it in Visual Studio Code with Claude Code plugin, I will be able to run few commands. So let me try to run few things. So for example, I can say list files. So it is running Claude model, I believe Opus as such, and it is using OpenRouter keys. So let's see how to do that. So few prerequisites. So first of all, I should have OpenRouter access. So I have to log in, create an account for OpenRouter, and I should have one key created. So with OpenRouter, you can call all the LLM providers in one shot. So rather than creating with multiple hosting providers or LLM providers, what you can do is you can have one single key which can be used to access all the models. Apart from that, you also need Docker Desktop. So Docker Desktop is for running this sandbox environment. So these are the only two prerequisites which you need as such to do this exercise. So what I have done is, first of all, I went through this Docker repository. I will share the link for this Docker repository also. But essentially what it is trying to do is it is actually making sure that we have a desktop environment specifically for Ubuntu 22.04 available to us within Docker. And the way we have to do is we have this specific command by which we log in into this, and it is available to us. This desktop environment is available to us via web browser. So if I go to this link, post running this command. So for example, I have to run this command here. I run this command here and post that it started running. On port 6901, I can access this specific desktop environment. So I already have something already open, but let me again do it. So here is the environment which is running. And one of the thing which is sort of very important is, what happens is if I close this Docker environment, the way I have configured is the file systems remains persistent, which means even if I restart Docker desktop many times, all the projects and file which I have created, they remain persistent. So that's how we have run this command. So if you see, what we are doing is we have some volume which is attached to our Docker desktop, and that's how it is running. Now post that, once we have this thing running, what we need to do is we just need to come inside it and we can run few commands. For example, in the terminal, and again, just notice that I have root access. Again, I'm experimenting. Maybe root access is not necessary, but that's how I'm running it. So what we need to do is we need to install Claude Code, and the way to do it is this command. So I just installed this using Claude Code. So I ran it. In my case, it is already there. So it is not going to make any differences, but you can run this and it will be installed. Now, once you install this, the second step is you should go to Visual Studio Code. Luckily, Visual Studio Code is already available within this environment, pre-installed, so you need not to do anything. What you need to do is you need to create a folder. Like first project, you need to create a subfolder called .claude, and post that you need to set up few things. So for in example, in my case, what I have done is these are the open router settings which I have done. So one is project folder, inside that a subfolder called .claude, within that a file called settings.local.json. And what you have to do is you have to have these environment variables created. For example, this is your Anthropic base URL, which is openrouter.ai.api. Then your key, you have to copy paste your key, and then Anthropic API key, which is blank in this case. Another thing which you have to do is you need to install a Visual Studio Code extension called Claude Code for Visual Studio. So in this case, it is already installed for me. So this is, once you install it, this is how it looks like. And once it is available, you can run all the commands here. So that is again the sort of prerequisite for this. So I will just summarize what you have to do. You need to install this environment. Again, I will be sharing all the steps in a GitHub repo. Once you install this environment, what you need to do is you need to make sure you install Claude Code CLI using this command, which is, install.sh. Then what you need to do is you need to create a particular folder, and within that particular folder, you need to create a file called settings.local.json, and you're good to go. With some configuration, you will be able to run all these commands within this sandbox or Docker environment, which is completely isolated. So that's it, team. That's for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.